Hey folks, Chris Waters here. PAX East 2014, it's the final day, and Danny, you have been talking to me about Transistor, a game you got to play this weekend, and if you folks don't know this game, it's beautiful for one, but lay the groundwork for these for our fine viewers.
So Bastion was the game that Supergiant launched a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Shout out to Greg Kasavin, former GameSpot editor.
Heyo.
This is, it's not a sequel. It is very much in the same vein as Bastion. It's an isometric adventure game that is heavily based on combat. It's mostly linear, and combat is the key. And as with Bastion, which was a game which had a relatively simplistic combat system, which sort of evolved and became interesting as the game progressed, Transistor is a game where the combat is key to how engaged you are and how enjoyable the experience actually is.
And is that the kind of thing you can get a feel for during a show floor demo? Because so many of these things, it takes a little while to get into it, but it's such a distinct combat system in Transistor.
Well, I guess I wonder if this is to do with Greg being part of the games press for a while, but those guys are real good at making demos for show floors.
Oh, really?
It's just as well because the queue for that, the line was pretty big.
Totally.
So it's real good. The demo I played basically introduced you with the titular character, this lady who's got this ridiculously big sword. There is a voice speaking to you, as it is in Bastion, kind of narrating the game. You start off with one power, they quickly introduce a second one, a third one, and a fourth one. And what they also introduce is the ability to stop time, which then turns it from a general action isometric hack and slasher into a turn-based almost fighting game. So it stops time. You can have a certain amount of points you can spend based on distance moved and the attacks you use, or the defensive mechanisms as well. One of the ones I unlocked was something which got you to dash away really quickly.
Okay.
So you plan those out, hit right trigger again, bam, 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 bam. It already happens quick, and then you have to rely on using those exact same moves just in general time until your bar
to evade the counterattack or whatever threat still remains. But that's it, and that's the thing that I think has been capturing a lot of people's interest is the way that it does transition from that hack and slash to that planning, that strategic. Because there's some strategy in how you may go about the action, but when you're pausing to think about it, it takes on a whole different feel.
And I think that is a fair criticism of Bastion perhaps, is that is a type of game where you can run through as just hitting everything. There is a layer of strategy that you can employ, but you don't necessarily have to. What happened when I kind of had a eureka moment when I hit it for the first time, I was like, oh, this bomb thing, this AoE one, would actually work really well if I was in that position. But because now I can actually see, when you play these games, so much happening, you are often just involved in it, unless you really take time to try and plan something. Whereas in this, you can stop, check it out. You're looking at the areas of effect for the shots. You're looking at the angles, because just like Bastion, you were using the D-pad to see where you're hitting them and stuff. So it makes it more interesting, and then also you tend to employ those tactics when you're not in the turn-based mode as well. You bring it back out, you're learning.
That's a cool sort of feedback loop. Right? The tactics you plan out strategically then become part of your active repertoire. Very cool. Well, you folks have been seeing this game in action here in this vid, but Danny, art style was something that Supergiant came out so strong with Bastion, and though this one, you can see the through line of the general artistic approach, it looks very different.
But it also looks similarly gorgeous and sounds great. For a really small team, they have a very high level of polish on the games they create, and Transistor is very much like that as well. So it sounds wonderful. The music, the effect of that voice talking in your head, and also, shout out to Greg, the storytelling is as interesting as it was in Bastion. Again, probably tailored for this demo real good.
Oh, of course.
With the reveals. It's a game that I think perhaps for a lot of people, Bastion was interesting because of the story or because of the graphics and whatnot. This has this as well, but the combat is immediately more engaging from the off. Which I think is going to be really exciting when it comes out next month, May 20th.
Next month.
PlayStation 4 and PC. So we won't be looking at it on show floors of expos around the world anymore.
And you won't have to look at it on internet videos with two devilishly handsome people, one of whom has an out-of-control ego.
Figure that one out for yourself.